Hi, my name is Michelle and I'm the Scoretable Coordinator for Basketball New South Wales. Today I'm going to go through a Level 0 Scoretable course which will allow you to do Scoretable on your son or daughter's representative basketball game. For score bench, there are 4 positions. They are the chairperson, the person that does the score sheet, the person who operates the time clock and the visuals board, and the person who does the shot clock if it's required for your child's game. In terms of on bench, please remember that we don't like you to have any mobile phones on bench. It is a distraction and we need your full attention on your child's game at all times, as well as no food and no drinks on the bench. If you have to take some water with you, please remember to have a water bottle that has a lid on it that can be placed down beside you. What we don't want is balls or players coming off the court and knocking it over, and it can wreck score sheets and equipment, so just please be mindful of that. One other thing to remember as well is we ask you please don't barrack for either team while you're on the score bench, or berate the referees or question the referees' calls while you're on the score bench. You're there to do a job, and it is not your position to sit there and question the referees' calls or cheer for a team. You've got to be impartial and sit there and do the job that's been asked of you. Okay, so the first position we're going to talk about is the role of the chairperson. The role of the chairperson, they are essential to the smooth operating of the score table. They are usually the person that is most experienced, although that's not always possible at an under-12s game, as we understand. Most parents are new to rep basketball as well as score bench. But it is usually the person who has the most experience, most confidence in going through. And sometimes it's just the person who has the most guts to do it for the game. Okay? So the chairperson is a person that the referees will communicate with during the game. They are usually the most knowledgeable, as I said. Before the game starts, they will generally go to both teams and ask for the starting fives, their captains. At a junior game, however, most of the time the referees will do this for you. We don't usually expect parents to go to an opposing coach and ask this information, but it is generally the role of the chairperson. Before the game starts, we must have a starting 5 listed. We must know who is the captain for each team. We must have a coach's name and their initial on the score sheet, and if they have any assistant coaches as well. It is imperative that we also ensure that all players that are there to play are listed on the score sheet. If a game does commence and a player has not been listed on the score sheet, unfortunately they are not able to take any part of the game. What we can do is just ask the coach to confirm that all his players are there. If the player's going to arrive late, we can just add them on and then they can arrive whenever they like, as long as they're on the score sheet, but we must make sure that they're on the score sheet beforehand. Any questions? Okay. We also must ensure that before the game starts, we have a chat with the referees and find out what colours they're going to call. Seems like a simple task, however, what I think the referees are going to call and what they do actually call are sometimes not the same thing. So for instance, if we have two teams that are the same colour, and I'll give Bankstown and Sutherland as an example, they're both blue. So a referee can't call them both blue, so we need to make sure what colours they're going to call. And what I think they're going to call and what the referees call may be different, and likewise what one referee might think and what the other referee thinks might be different as well. So before the game starts, we can get on the same page. Before the game even starts, we also need to find out where our buzzer is. Okay, so on some courts they have a horn in the middle of the court, in the middle of the bench. On some benches it is on the timing console. Some give you a horn to use. You need to have something that you can alert the referees, but you need to find out where that is before the game even starts. Where you sit, the chairperson does sit in the middle of the score bench. So generally on halfway, in front of you, you should have a possession arrow. To your immediate right should be your score sheet person sits to your right. To your immediate left is your timekeeper. And beside them, if required, we have our shot clock operator sits on the end. It is essential the chairperson does sit in the middle. They are the person that the referees communicate with. It's where they look to for subs and timeouts to call the fouls. And it's also where the arrow is, and as a chairperson you are responsible for the arrow. Okay? To start the game, we have one jump ball that starts the game. The referees will throw the jump ball up. Whichever team does not gain control of that jump ball, and by control, two hands on, we're dribbling, the arrow will point in the direction that that team that did not gain control is running on the court. So a simple tip, if the jump ball's thrown and everyone's dribbling and going that way, usually the arrow will point that way. Everyone okay with that so far? Okay. During the game, we don't have any more jump balls. We don't have a toss of the ball. If the referees call a held ball, or the ball gets stuck in the ring, or they're not sure who it came off, then the referees will look to the middle of the bench to see which way the arrow is pointing. Whichever way that is pointing, that's who gets the ball from the sideline. Okay? One thing to remember with the arrow is that it doesn't change until the ball is on court and it's in play again. That way there's no confusion as to which way the ball is going, whose ball it is. And it's quite often where people swap it straight away before the referees have even looked at the arrow. So we need to make sure it doesn't happen until it's back on court. During the game, we've already worked out before the game what colours we're going to call. So as a chairperson, you're observing the points as they're scored and you're relaying that nice and loud. Not the parents on the other side don't need to hear it, but the people on either side of you need to understand who scored and how many points they've scored. Referees will tell you be either 2 points. They will hold up 2 hands for a 3-point shot, or if it's free throws, they'll tell you that 1 point has been made. Every time that happens, you are telling the people around you what colour and what number and what points it is. So it's red 6, 2 points. Blue 10, 3 points. If they made a free throw, it's blue 8, 1 point. So it's nice and clear, so the person doing the score sheet can write it down, the person doing the scoreboard can put it up on the scoreboard. And because we've clarified what colour is what, we can accurately record it and there's no confusion. Okay. With subs, the subs must come up to the bench, and it is the sub, not the coach, that can ask for a sub. They must be ready to play. Now in winter it does get cold, so we do allow them to wear a shirt. However, they must be able to take it off quite quickly and be ready to go on court. The sub, of course, why we ask them to come by the bench is that we make sure that they haven't been fouled out already, and we make sure that they're on the score sheet. So before a player is taking the court for the first time, we need to make sure that player's number is on the score sheet before they take the court, so we don't allow them if they're not on there. And we need to make sure that we haven't already fouled them out if it's a bit later in the game. Any time the whistle blows, for whatever reason, you can hit the horn, whichever horn you're using, wherever you've allocated it before the game has started. You press the horn, alert the referees that they want a sub, and that team was after a sub. The referees will beckon them on. Okay, so anytime there's a whistle. What we do say is if the whistle is for a foul, the referees will be coming to the bench to tell you what foul, and we wait for them to finish that, then we let them know that we've got a sub waiting. If the sub is for while free throws are being shot, then if the final free throw goes in and we've got a team sitting on the baseline throwing it in, then we would let the referees know that they want a sub. If it doesn't go in, everyone's rebounding, they have to wait for another whistle. Okay. In the last 2 minutes of the game, however, and we'll go through the timekeeper's role in a little bit, but the clock will stop after every basket. And the rules with subs is in the last 2 minutes of the game, if you're the team that didn't score, so you are the team sitting on the baseline throwing the ball in, you can have a sub. If they've given you enough time to hit the horn, and let the referees know. Once the ball's back in play, they have to wait for another whistle or the opposition to score again. Any questions about subs? Just remember, if a coach runs up and they all do it asking for a sub, just say, "Coach, can you send your player up?" Okay, because he can't sub, his player has to. Okay, so fouls, the referees will come up to the bench to relay the information about fouls, and they'll look to the person in the middle, the chairperson, to relay the information. They'll tell you the colour, the number, the type of foul, and what the penalty is. So they might say it's a foul on red 5, it's a hands foul, and it's side ball. Okay, or whatever they're called, they will let you know. So as a chairperson, you're going to relay the information to your people around you so they can record on the score sheet. So as your referee says this foul on red 5, hands foul, side ball, you're simply saying it's red 5, side ball, or red 5, 2 shots, whatever the penalty is. Okay? So it is really important, especially at juniors, because we do understand we have a lot of referees that are new and quite often are are quite timid and their signals are not that fantastic and their voices aren't that great, if you don't understand what they're saying, you need to hit the buzzer and ask them to come over and tell you exactly. It's really important that we have the right players' fouls recorded so we don't foul off the wrong person or we leave on someone that should have been fouled out earlier because we didn't understand what the referees are saying. Okay, and likewise, often they're quite over the other side of the court and they're too afraid to come near you because that's where the coaches are standing. The coaches are probably having a go at them. So if you're ever unsure of anything at the next stop or if it's in the same stoppage, hit the horn and call them over and ask them, can I just confirm who the foul is on. If you believe that the referee might have called it on the wrong player, you may have it wrong, but you can always ask the question, it isn't all how you say it. So you hit the buzzer and say, can I just confirm that the foul was on number 8? Okay? If they say to you, it's definitely on number 8, and it might have been an off-ball foul that was saying that you didn't see and so that you weren't looking at. If they go, it was on number 8, then you go, no worries, record it down. Now the problem is they will have to deal with the coaches now because they've said, no, it's definitely number 8. They might go and ask their partner because they've got the number wrong. But at least you'd ask the question, and it isn't all how you say it. Okay? So we're signalling to referee at an appropriate time when a substitution or timeouts is granted. So we've gone over subs. Timeouts are fairly similar to subs. Anytime the whistle blows for whatever reason, if a coach has asked you for a timeout and he's got any timeouts remaining to him, then we can hit the horn and tell the referees that we want a timeout to whatever coach. Okay? And that's on any whistle. Throughout the entire game, if the opposition scores and you're standing on the baseline throwing the ball in after a basket, then you can have a timeout if the coach has asked for it in time. Okay? But again, you have to be the team standing on the baseline. Now timeouts, that's throughout all 4 quarters and any overtime. For subs, it is only the last 2 minutes. Okay, is everyone okay with the timeouts? With subs and timeouts, again, as I said with subs, if it's for free throws while the referees are called a foul, if they get it before the first free throw, the ball's been passed to the player, then we can have a timeout or a sub. If it's while the free throws are going, it depends on whether they make it or not. If they don't make it, we have to wait for another whistle. If they do make it and there's a team throwing the ball in from the baseline, either team can have a sub or a timeout. Okay? Now, we have foul bats during the game. And while it is the role of the score sheet person to do the foul bats, the chairperson can assist, and that happens often with juniors. However, the chairperson must have the 5th foul bat. The 5th foul bat tells the referees that the person they've just called the foul on has received the 5th foul and they must leave the court immediately and cannot return. So it's really important that we get that straight away because we don't want players staying on that should have left the court. Okay? With the other foul bats, they are a score sheet person's responsibility. However, if the chairperson is going to assist, they need to be held up as quickly as possible, and the person that needs to see it the most is the coach. We hold it up long enough for the coach to see. If I'm holding up a 3 or 4 foul bat, I do hold it up for a bit longer just to make sure they have definitely seen it. And then just so we make all the parents happy on the other side of the court, also hold it up to them. Okay, but the most important person to see it is the coach. Okay, and as a chairperson, I start to understand as you get to do more games that if I hold up a 3 or a 4 foul bat, I'm usually going to expect a sub from a coach because he's wanting to get his player out generally. Not all the time, but I can tell you if you hold up a 4 foul bat, 90% of the time they'll sub them out so they don't get fouled out straight away. So just keep that in mind. You learn to understand what the triggers are for subs. Timeouts if a team keeps on turning the ball over time and time again and they keep doing and score it again. So I'll be looking for a timeout from the other coach. So it's just little things that you can do as a chairperson to make your life easier and you're not having coaches yelling at you so much. Okay. Now it is really, really important that we do note and let the referees know when a person has received 2 unsportsmanlike or 2 technical fouls. As soon as a player does receive 2 unsportsmanlike or 2 technical fouls, they are actually disqualified from the game, and obviously we need to remove them immediately from the game. So we should be getting that while the game is still stopped for that foul, whatever it was, and as soon as our score sheet person tells us that it is a second person technical foul or second unsportsmanlike foul, we're hitting the horn and saying the referees, that's it. Most of the referees will know, but they may not understand. One might have been in the first quarter, one might have been in the fourth quarter. So it's up to us to make sure the referees do understand. We do also need to make sure that the score sheet and the scoreboard do coincide. What we don't want is 5 minutes down the track to find out that we're not matching. So periodically we need to check that and make sure that's happening. We also need to make sure that our score sheet and our scoreboard are talking to each other, and we'll go through what they need to say to each other to make sure they match. But this is what you need to be doing to make sure you sit in the middle. That's why you need to sit in the middle, is you can hear what they're saying to each other and you can make sure that they match. During the game, when a team has received their 4th team foul for a period and your score sheet person has advised you of this, you are to put on a foul light to indicate to both the team, the referees and spectators that that team is now in bonus. This foul light stays on for the remainder of the period, and any defensive foul from that point onwards, they will shoot bonus points. This foul light must be of a red colour, and it's either a light, a flag or a cone or something red that can indicate to everyone that the team is in bonus. At the end of that period, that light gets switched off or the cones to get taken down, and we restart for the next period. Okay. Likewise, the time clock and the shot clock are working correctly. That's why we ask that the person doing chairperson is a bit knowledgeable across all 4 positions, because the shot clock, if something happens and you don't know how to fix it, it's very hard to do. As a chairperson, I would expect that if something happens with the shot clock, and say, no, you need to reset that now. And the referees would be hopeful that the person doing chair would be able to assist them with that. Okay. If there's any problems, we do wait for the next stoppage of play. We don't like to stop the game mid-game. So if the next stoppage, if there's any problems, whether it's the scores aren't correct, you need to clarify whether it was a 3-point or a 2-point shot. You have an issue with a coach or an issue with a spectator behind you, because that happens as well, or there's an issue on the bench between parents. Next time there's a stoppage, then we hit the horn and ask the referees over and ask for their assistance. And it might be they have to get a supervisor or whatever it may be, but we don't stop the game mid-game. Okay? Might wait for a basket, so although the clock hasn't stopped, we can hit the horn because the game is in a dead period as such. Okay, so I've given you all a summary sheet. So this summary sheet is saying that although it is under the score sheet person's role, it is something that you need to assist them with. So during the game, the summary sheet should not be filled out while the game is going, but at every break we have a score sheet person and the chairperson doing it together, and it will take no more than 30 seconds depending on how many points have been scored, and then we can get it quite quickly. What we don't want is one parent sitting there doing the summary sheet by themselves at the end of the game. If we do it at every break, it gets done quite quickly. Okay. Ensure that the summary sheet and score sheet are completed. At the end of the game, the score sheet must be completed. We must have a winning team, the winning score. We should have everyone's names written down. We should have the summary sheet completed, including who the winning team was and what the score was. So it has all to be completed, and the referees have to sign it as well, and they shouldn't be signing until we've completed that. There is a chairperson sheet, and you can use that if you like, but it shouldn't interfere with your job, and we'll leave that for another time. And that is a chairperson role. So now we're going to go through how to do the score sheet during the game. It's very important to note that while you're doing the score sheet, you must use only 2 colours, and that is blue and black. Doesn't matter what order you do that in, but start off in blue, for instance. Next quarter you change it to black, change it again back to blue for the 3rd quarter, change it to black for the last. You can alternate that and use black first if you like, but either way, they're the 2 colours that you must use. You cannot use any other colours on the score sheet. So, if you like, before the game starts, you can note in brackets beside each team name what colour they are. So you've already determined before the game with your chairperson what colour. So team A, you might say, is red. And team B, you might say, is blue. Just so you know what team's what. Okay? So when your chairperson tells you the fouls and the scores, who scored, then you relay that onto the score sheet. So to start with, we're looking at fouls. 99%, sometimes 100% of the fouls in the game are normal personal fouls. So they are your pushing fouls, your hands fouls, your charges, your blocks, your screens, illegal screens, whatever they may be. They're 99%, sometimes 100% of your calls during the game are a normal personal foul. So when your chairperson tells you it's a foul on red 4 and it's side ball, all we need to do is go up to red and to number 4, and in the next available box, in this case it is the first foul for the game, we go to the first box and put a P in there for a personal foul. Okay? If it's just side ball and there's no shots being taken as a result of that foul, then all you need to do is put a P there. Every time you put a foul against a player on the team, you must record a foul against the team itself. So we go up to the first row, which is the first quarter of team fouls, and we place a cross across the next available team foul. Each line is each quarter. So I record that down. There are no free throws, so I'll leave it as a normal P. And I need to call out loud enough for my timekeeper to hear. First personal, first team. That reminds me to hold up a first foul bat, so the coaches know how many fouls are on. And it also tells my timekeeper how many team fouls I have, and they can check that they've got the same thing. And that way, if we've done it wrong, or they're put on the wrong side, or we've forgotten to do something, then we're going to capture it straight away. So when my chairperson says it's a foul on red 9, and it's 2 shots because he was shooting or it was in bonus, whatever it may be, I go to red, I go to 9, and place a P in that box in the next available foul box for red 9. However, this time we do have penalties of free throws, so beside the P, I put how many free throws were awarded for that foul. Doesn't matter how many the player actually made, it's just how many were given. So beside the P, I put a 2 or a 1 if it's an end 1, or 3 if he was fouled while he was shooting 3-point shots. Okay? Everyone okay with that so far? Okay. When I put a foul against a player, again, I've got to put 1 against the team, and this time I'll call out first personal, second team. That way, we all know that we're on the same page. When blues fouls and your chairperson says it's a foul on 6 blue and it's 1 shot because he made a basket and he's got 1 to come, so 6 blue, I put a P and a 1 beside the player and then a team foul. Okay? That is 99% of your fouls for the game. Okay? If we have fouls that are different to normal personal fouls, so we're talking about a technical foul or an unsportsmanlike or a disqualifying foul, they are recorded a bit differently. So if the referees come up to your chairperson and say it's a technical foul on red 7, for whatever reason, and we're not to question it, but that's what the referees are called, beside number 7 for red, I put a T for a technical foul. The penalty is usually 1 shot. So beside the T, I put a 1 to say it was a technical foul with 1 shot as a penalty. Again, when I put 1 against the player on the court, I have to record 1 against the team. This time I'm saying first personal, third team. Okay? If number 4 gets his next foul, referees will come up and call it, and I say it's just a side ball. So I put a P next to red 4 because that's what my chairperson told me the foul was on, and I put 1 against the team fouls. So this time I'm calling out second personal, fourth team. What it does is tells my chairperson that they need to turn the foul light on. Because I said it nice and clear, they know that when the ball's resumed, they can turn the foul light on, so they know every defensive foul from that point on is in bonus. If they foul again, the referees are called a foul on number 11, for instance, just a side ball. The chairperson should be telling the referees, if they don't already know, that it's bonus because they're over their team fouls for the period, and I'll put a P2 there. If you're not sure, they haven't told you it's 2 shots, or you haven't seen that they've said 2 shots, when they're shooting, you can add the 1, 2 or 3 in. It's simple as that. However, I write it here, but I don't have to cross it. There's no more boxes to cross. So I now know that it's his first personal, and we're over the limit. So everything is bonus, unless it's an offensive foul. Disqualifying fouls, if someone does get disqualifying, is a D for disqualifying. And the disqualifying foul is called on number 6 red. He's gone for the game, he can't take any further part in the game. An unsportsmanlike foul is a referee's call an unsportsmanlike foul on a player and they relay that to your chairperson, then it's just put as a U. So number 6 blue got an unsportsmanlike called by the referees and it's usually 2 shots. So it's a U2 and I'm crossing the team fouls. The only time it doesn't go against the team fouls is if it's to do with the coach and the bench. If they're on the court, they're playing when they got called for the foul, it goes against the team fouls. When somebody receives a second technical foul or second unsportsmanlike foul, they are disqualified from the game. So, beside the T, if number 7 got his second technical foul, and it might have been in the first quarter and the fourth quarter, they may not have even been close to each other. As soon as he receives his second T, he is disqualified from the game. What we do is in the next box that is empty, I put a GD to say it's a game disqualification. Can everyone see that on the pamphlet? This is a GD next to a player that's received their game disqualification. It's the same with an unsportsmanlike. Now it must be 2 of the same. If they get 1 technical and 1 unsportsmanlike, they still can remain unless they've had 5 fouls. Once they get their second technical or their second unsportsmanlike, they are disqualified. A disqualification foul is when the referee has disqualified them immediately, and it's usually for a fight or something like that, and they're gone. They don't get to hang around at all. Okay. When the second quarter happens, I'm changing to a different colour. So I can now see that the foul on 4 is in the second quarter, because it's a different colour. At half time, we ask you to box around, and we only do it at half time, box around the fouls. We only do it at half time. That means every blue and black before that line is first half and every blue and black after that line is second half. If you do it every quarter and you're doing 2 colours, you won't be able to understand what quarter is what. Any questions about fouls against the player on the court? So fouls against coaches and the team bench, they don't go against the personal fouls, so they don't go against the team fouls, they are separate. So we have 2 separate fouls for the coach and the bench. The coach technical foul is for the coach's own behaviour. Okay? The referees should be making it quite clear exactly whether they've called it against the coach or whether they've called it against the bench, because it does determine how long they're allowed to stay on court if they get a couple of them. So when a referee comes up and says it's to your chairperson, it's a technical foul on the coach for Team Blue. And if you're not sure, you need to ask whether it's a coach or a bench. Okay? So for Blue, goes this technical foul on the coach. Beside the coach's name in their box, I put a C and I put a C1 to say the penalty is 1 shot, because that's what a tech foul is. Okay? Everyone okay with that so far? If he comes back about 5 minutes later and says, we've now got a technical foul on the bench for Blue, it's because the assistant coach, a sub, the manager, the doctor, the physio, whoever's sitting on that team bench has obviously done something they shouldn't and they're being penalised. So beside the coach, it gets recorded beside him as a B for a bench. Again, it doesn't go against the team fouls. Now it's really important that they record it as a C and a B rather than a T, because the coach for Blue, as soon as he receives a second C, he's ejected immediately. He has to leave the game. How he's got it now, where it's 1 C and 1 B, he can remain courtside. However, as soon as he receives a third of any combination, he's disqualified immediately. So it's very important that we record it correctly. Once he is ejected, so he might get a C, referees will call a technical foul on him because he's done something he shouldn't have again, he has to leave the game. Whoever's his assistant coach now steps in, okay, and he now has his own 2 of his own technical fouls, or 3 of any combination. So again, we have to make sure it's recorded. Any questions about technical fouls? Nope. Okay. Now, before the game starts, we did speak about getting the starting 5s for each team. So next to each team we should have before the game starts 5 crosses against each team. To start a game of rep basketball, you have to have 5 players on the court for each team. If the referees or yourself haven't got the starters before the game has even started, when they're out there doing the jump ball, then you cross the players that are out there. They're your starting 5 for both. We try to have it beforehand, but if that doesn't happen, we can do it this way. To say that they're starters for the start of the game, we circle the cross to say that they were the original 5 that started the game. Can everyone see that on the pamphlet? Okay. So for every age group, except for under 12s, it is up to the coach to decide whether he wants to play a player. Player does not have to take the court. It's his decision whether he plays him or not. It might be someone who's just a development player that's listed on the score sheet. Could be someone who's done the wrong thing at training, or it might be just his turn to sit off. The coach, it's their decision to decide. So for the remainder of the game, and I will go through the under 12 rule in a little bit, for the remainder of the game, whenever somebody takes the court for the very first time, we need to place a cross to say that they went on the court. Okay? So if everyone has played, by the end of the game, everyone should have a cross beside them. If they don't play, we leave it to the end of the game, because they can turn up with a minute to go in the game, and as long as their name's on the score sheet, the coach can play them. So we don't touch the name, even if they didn't show up in the third quarter, we leave them on there till the end of the game. Okay? If they don't play at all, then I'll go through what to do at the end of the game with the score sheet. Any questions about that? Now, the under 12 rule is that a player who is there and is able to play, the coach must put them on the court each half, and it has to be for a clock running period. So it may only be for a 10-second period between 2 whistles, but they have to play them. And the rule is there not to penalise the player, but to make sure the coach does the right thing by the player. So for under 12s especially, we need to make sure we do this. We have our starting 5, and by half time, every player should have a cross beside their name. If you get to second quarter with 2 minutes to go and you notice that number 8 hasn't got a cross beside him, and you can see a number 8 sitting on the bench, and you can see a player sitting there that hasn't taken the court, then as a courtesy, because I'm the one recording it, I would normally say to the coach, number 8 hasn't taken the court. There might be a valid reason why. It's not our job to determine that, but it is our job to record it correctly, and if it doesn't happen, to let the coach know, and if by half time that player still hasn't taken the court, then we let a supervisor know, and they take it from there. So ideally, by the end of the half, every player's got a cross beside them. In the second half, we need to do it again. For under 12s only. For every other age group, we just need to do it once. We just need to know they've taken the court once during the game. For under 12s, for the second half, he might do exactly the same starters as he did for the first half. We don't need to circle it because that's only for the start of the game, but we need to record that those players took the court. And then by the end of the game, we should have another set of crosses. By doing this for all age groups, it also tells us if someone's subbing onto the court that isn't on the score sheet. What we don't want to do is find out when someone fouls that they're not on the score sheet, which is when we normally find out. So before they sub on, we should be checking their numbers on the score sheet. If a player goes to sub on or is on the court and their number isn't on the score sheet, then at the next opportunity we need to let the referees know and call them over. If the player's name is on the score sheet but the number is wrong, we can change the number. Their name must be listed on the score sheet, however. Okay? If they're not listed on the score sheet, then unfortunately they do have to leave the court, and the NSW will make a determination about what will happen from that point on. But we need to make sure that we've done our job properly and we've recorded it. This will also tell Basketball New South Wales if a player has played in all age groups. So when it comes to eligibility, they may not have scored, they may not have fouled, but if they're not crossed to be an NSW, if they haven't scored, they haven't fouled, they haven't taken the court, and they haven't been there. So we need to make sure it's done correctly, so at the end of the season. If a player gets injured in under 12s in the first half, we don't force them onto the court in the second half. That's not what the rule is there for. The rule is there, obviously, if they're able to play. Likewise, if a player isn't there in the first half and they showed up at half time and it's under 12s, the coach must play them in the second half. Obviously, if they weren't there to play, we can't do anything about it in the first half, but as soon as they turn up, they must take the court. Okay. So, timeouts. Now, score sheets are all the same. So in under 12s and under 14s, we only have 2 timeouts per half. In under 16s and 18s, there's 2 timeouts in the first and 3 in the second. So in under 12s and under 14s game, you must remember that you cannot use the third timeout box for the second half. Okay? So allowed 2 timeouts per half for under 12s and under 14s. The referee, chairperson has let the referee know that the team wants a timeout. They've allocated them a timeout. Players have gone to the benches. To determine how to put the timeout in the box, if we have an 8-minute quarter game, okay, and on the game clock when the clock was stopped for the timeout, there was 5 minutes 15. That's what it was stopped at for the minute, for the timeout. Ignore the seconds completely. Okay, 8 minus 5 in the box, because red were the ones that had the timeout. I put a 3. It tells me that in the 3rd minute of that quarter, we had a timeout. If it's a 10-minute quarter game, so it's under 16s and under 18s, it'd be a 5 in the box, not a 3. So it's just whatever you start off at, ignore the seconds. Even if it's 5 minutes 59, ignore the seconds completely, it's still the 5th minute on the clock. If there is only 30 seconds on the game clock, and the coach is trying to get their last play in and trying to, win the game, ignore the seconds again, and it's an 8. Or in a 10-minute quarter game, it's a 10. It's in the 8th or the 10th minute of the quarter, that's when the coach had the timeout. Okay? When we don't use any time, if we don't use a timeout, if blue didn't have any timeouts, we do 2 lines to say they didn't use them. Or it might be just they didn't use the second one. What we're trying to do is make sure that no one can alter the score sheet. So there's no empty boxes. If red only had 2 team fouls for the second quarter, and that's all that was called by the referees, then we have a line for the remainder, so nothing can be added to the score sheet. Okay? At the end of the game, we want to put a line through every empty box in the foul boxes, so no fouls can be added to the score sheet. Okay, same with Team D. If a player, so number 13 was there, is it 16s and 18s, so the coach does not have to play him, but he was there, he might have been sitting there in his warm-up hoping that the coach will put him on, but it didn't happen. And he was there to play, but he just did not play. Then in the first 3 boxes, I just put a D and P. And that will tell BNSW that the player was there to play, but the coach didn't play them. Obviously you can't have that in under 12s, but under 14s, 16s and 18s, that's how we record it. And then for the remainder, we have a line through. Now Steve Blake, he wasn't there at all. So he doesn't get a did not play. To be there, he has to be suited up, has to have his shoes on, he can't be wearing jeans, he has to be as if he's going to play, but the coach didn't play him. So if he's not there, or he's there and he's in his jeans or he's in thongs or whatever, then he doesn't get a did not play. He gets completely crossed out. So if BNSW look at a score sheet and they see all this done and all the crosses done, then they know it's been accurately recorded who was there, who didn't play, so on and so forth. Any questions? Now, just finally with the timeouts, in the second half, in the last 2 minutes of the game, if that team has not used their first timeout for that half, so in under 12s you only get 2, under 16 age you get 3, but if you haven't used the first timeout that's available to you, so you haven't used the first box, you lose it. And you have to have it given to you by the referees by the 2 minute mark. So if you called it with 2 minutes 30 on the game clock in the fourth quarter, and there was no stoppages, and then the next stoppage was at 1:59, you've lost your first one. Okay, so if you get to below the 2 minute mark and they haven't used it, they lose it. In a close game, you'll find that the coach will get it in quickly, just so he doesn't lose it. If it's a blowout game, the coach may not use it at all. Just depends. Any questions about the timeouts? Okay. So that's how we do the fouls and that's how we do the timeouts. The next thing that we do is the scoring. So we've already determined that Team A is red, Team B is blue. So when your chairperson says to you 2 points, red 6, you simply go to Team A, you go down 2 and slash the 2 and put the player's number beside it. So it's red 6, 2 points. When your chairperson says blue 10, 2 points, you go to Team B because blue is Team B, go down 2, slash the 2 and put the 10 beside it. We don't do every line, we just go down the 2 and do that, otherwise it's quite messy. It's easy to understand this way. Okay, so when they say blue 12, 2 points, then I go to Team B again, go down 2 and record it. Now every time I record, just like when I did the fouls, every time I recorded a foul I spoke up and said first person or second team or whatever it might have been. When I do the points, I'm going to call out the points of what I just recorded. So in this case, my last points I recorded were the 2 points for blue 12, so I'm going to call out 4. Now we don't call out both points because if you don't do it the right way every single time, it can be confusing. We just call out what we've just recorded. So if I have another 2 points to say blue 11 and I go down 2, I'd be calling out 6. Nice and loud so my chairperson knows that I've heard what he said. My timekeeper can hear me and take a look up on the board and make sure they've got the same, and then they'll relay back to us. So again, we're making sure if there's any error, we might have put it on the wrong side, we might have recorded a 2 instead of 3 or the other way around, that we're going to capture it straight away. So that's how we record our 2s. Our 1s, so our free throws, are all recorded individually. So when my chairperson says, we've had a foul and someone's going to free throw line and the chairperson says it's a 1 point red 7 because he's shot and made his free throw, then I just colour in a circle and put the player's number beside it. So it's a coloured in dot. Okay. Now, if my chairperson says it's 1 point to red 7 again, I do exactly the same. Now, because I'm only recording the made free throws, these actually may not be the same free throws taken at the same time. So what might have happened is he got fouled, shot 2 free throws but only made 1, went up and back and got fouled again and only made 1 free throw. We don't know because we only ever record what he actually made. Okay? So when blue 8 makes a free throw, I go down 1, circle it and put the player's number beside it. So I can now see my 1s and 2s really clearly. Now in all age groups except for under 12s, so under 14s, 16s and 18s, you can also have a 3-point shot. Under 12s cannot get awarded a 3-point shot, however they still get 2 points for it. We just obviously don't give them 3. We're encouraging them to go in and drive into the basket. So when your chairperson says it's 3 points, blue 10, because that's what the referees have held up, there's 3 and the chairperson's noticed that it's a 3-point shot, I go to Team B because it's blue, I go down 3, so this time I'm going down to 10, I put the player's number in and I circle the player's number and I'm calling out 10. making sure that my timekeeper has got exactly the same thing. So now you can clearly see your 1 points, your 2 points and your 3 points. And if you do it this way, it's not messy, it's easier to read. So if I have another 2 pointer for blue 12, I go down 2 and call out 12. But again, it's really clear what my 2s and 3s are. There's no confusion. Okay? At the end of the quarter, so quarter break, I put a line underneath the score and the last scorer for each team. Now you shouldn't have a line all the way across unless it's a tied game at the end of that period. So in this case, our score, I'm going to circle the score to say that's the score at the end of the period, is 4 to 12. Bottom left hand corner, we actually put down there what the score is in that period. So in this case, it's 4 and team B is 12. Okay? Start the next quarter, we're swapping colours. Okay? So it's 2 points, 5 red. I've got 2 points, 7 blue. Got 1 point, it was an N1 and 7 made his N1, so it's 1 point to 7 blue. And 3 points to 8 red. Again, I'm calling out the score as I'm recording it, so we're making sure we're matching. And so that's the end of the quarter, so we're at half time now. Again, we do exactly the same thing. Line, circle the score. Line, circle the score. So the score at the end of the quarter is 9 to 15. Down here, we're not actually putting 9 and 15, we're putting what they scored in that quarter. So for team A, they scored 5 points. Team B, they only scored 3 points. But when I add them together, I should have what my score is at the end of that period. Okay? So we continue on, we do exactly the same thing, and then at the end of the game, so we pretend this is the end of the fourth quarter, we should be in black again at the end of the fourth quarter. We have this time 2 lines under the final score if we have a result. Now we have to have a result at the end of a representative game, we cannot have a tied game, which means that if you have 2 teams on exactly the same score, we have to have overtime. Okay? If we have a result, even if it's 1 point, then we have an end of the game, we have a winner. We have 2 lines underneath the score for each team. Okay? And down here, my final score is 9 to 15, and my winner is Hawks. Okay? What we don't want to do is anyone to change the running score as well and add anything to it. So in the column that your scoring has finished off in, I run a line from the top right hand corner of that column to the bottom left hand corner of that column, and the same with this column. That way nothing can be added to that running score. Okay? If team B, say, was on 42 and team A was still in this column, you only have to go to the bottom of the column that team's running score finished off in. So you don't have to do the next column, you just have to do wherever they finish off. You just don't want anyone adding more to it. What we don't want is squiggly lines for the rest of the columns. We just need to do it so no one can add anything to the rest of that column. Okay? And at the end of the game, we should have how much they've scored in each quarter. If there's no overtime, we don't have any overtime scores or any extra period scores, and the full-time score should all add up to what your final score is. Okay? We write our name for all 4 people, and then the referees will sign it. The referees shouldn't sign it until you've finished. Okay. Any questions about the score sheet? No? Okay, really quickly, the summary sheet. So team A is Kings, team B is Hawks. In these boxes down each side are the players' numbers that are off the score sheet. So I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever numbers are listed on the score sheet for that team. And same with team B. Okay. So at the end of each quarter, it is easy to do it this way. The first line is first half, the second line is second half. So what we're recording is what that player scored in that game. So for team A, we do one team at a time. I do 6 for 2 points. So I go to number 6, and in the first line, I put a 2. 7 scored 1 point, and 7 scored another point. So when I add that together, I should have the score for their first quarter. Do the same for team B. Then at halftime, I have 5 has 2 points, and some different colour. I'd usually space it out a little bit further along the line, so I put 5 has 2 points, and 8 has 3 points. And I should have the total for that quarter. Then I simply add that line up, and that's what they scored for the half. You do exactly the same for the second half, total their score for the second half, and we add this first and second half together, you'll then have their total score for the game. So what it means is that when you add all your totals up, you should get to your final score. If you don't get to your final score, you stuffed it up somewhere. And that's why we say don't do it while the game's going, because all you have to do is miss 1 point, and it takes longer to find that 1 point than it does to do it in the 30 seconds it takes you. So my halftime total is 9, and we've got, say, 10 for the second half. There's no overtime, and my full-time score, so you've added all these up. My full-time score is down the bottom. It should match your score sheet. And up here I have the Hawks, and the score was 15. D for defeated, Kings, 9. And your summary sheet's done. Any questions about either of those two things? Okay. Just a side note, please don't use erasable pens on score sheets because they eventually rub off. No liquid paper on score sheets. Have had it, so please don't use liquid paper on score sheets. If you do make an error, and it happens where it might be your fault, it might be the referees called a 2 and then they said, oh sorry, it's a 3. Or they could have called a foul on a player and then said, oh sorry, it's on a different player, and that happens. It may not be your fault. Fouls are the easiest to fix. Usually that person will foul again sometime in the game, unless they're the 10th player and you're out of luck, but usually the fouls you can fix easily. If you can't fix the point, so you've put it on the wrong side, then you just have to place a cross through it and put an asterisk, and down the bottom, score recorded in error. Just so if someone picks up the score sheet, they know exactly why there's someone crossed out. It's not a biggie, but we just need to be able to explain what you've done. And it happens, and I said it may not even be your fault, and look, I've made plenty of mistakes out of my own, but it could also be the referees change their mind about things as well. And that is the score sheet. Now I'm going to go through the timekeeper's role. This role is most important on the bench. The clock is your most important priority. To start off with, before the game even starts, you need to have a play with the scoreboard and make sure you know how to operate it. That's why we generally say that the home team does the scoreboard, because they generally know how to use the equipment. So have a play with it, work out how to start and stop the clock, how to put points up, how to fix an error if you do make it, and also work out if you've got the siren and work out where it is. So on the scoreboard, Team A is always on the left, Team B is always on the right. Likewise on the score sheet, on the running score, Team A is on the left, Team B is on the right. So it makes it for easy correlating between the two. During the game, every time the whistle blows, the clock will stop. So to start the game, we have a jump ball. The referee will throw the jump ball up, and the referee that's not throwing the jump ball will drop their hand and indicate the game is to start. Once they do that, we press the start, and we continue on until that we hear a whistle. As soon as we hear a whistle, we press stop again. Once the ball is thrown back in on court and touched by someone, the referee will generally drop their hand, although we can't always rely on this. So as soon as it's been touched by someone on court, we press the start button and we start the clock again. It is really important that this is done accurately. If the stoppage is for a foul, the clock will stop as soon as the whistle has been blown. If the penalty is free throws, the clock remains stopped for the entire period of the free throws. If the final free throw does go in, once the ball has been thrown in from the baseline and is touched by a player on court, then we start the clock again. If it doesn't go in and hits the ring or bounces out, then as soon as it's touched by somebody on the rebound, then we start the clock then. And we wait for another whistle to stop it again. If the free throws are 2 free throws in possession or 1 in possession at halfway, then again we're keeping the clock stopped until it's been thrown in from the halfway and touched by someone on court, and generally again we're waiting for the referee to drop their hands if they're doing that, otherwise we're waiting for someone to touch it on court. Okay. So during the game, if a coach asks for a timeout after a basket, so their opposition has scored and we know that they're allowed to have a timeout, as soon as we know the basket has been made and the ball has gone through the ring, then we stop the clock straight away and the chairperson will hit the horn and tell the referees that the team that didn't score wants a timeout. Okay? Otherwise, they have to wait for a whistle. In the last 2 minutes of the game, however, every time either team scores, we stop the clock straight away. So as soon as it's passed through the ring, we stop the clock. Then we wait for it to be passed back in. This may only be a short period of time. If it's 16s and 18s, it tends to be quite quick. They get the ball and throw it in quite quickly. Under 12s can be a bit longer, so sometimes it can be up to 10, 20 seconds while they catch the ball and work out who's throwing it in and get off the court and throw it in. So it does vary. At this time, someone has scored. If you have the ability to stop the clock and put the points up quite quickly, then do that. Otherwise, if you can't, the priority is a clock and the points can go up once the ball is back in play and you start it again. So just make sure the clock is done first. We can always match the scoreboard to the score sheet in 10 seconds. Once it's back on court, it can wait for that time because we have the score sheet to back it up. Okay. Team fouls and points are to be recorded once your chairperson tells you. So the chairperson says 2 points, red 6, 3 points, blue 10. When they say that to you, as soon as they've advised you of that, then you put it up on whatever side is team A or team B, you put that up on the board. When your score sheet person relays what they've got on, so they'll say first personal, second team, for instance, you look up, check that you've got 2 team fouls on that team, and you're to call back 2, or second team. What we don't want you to do is say, yep, I've got that, or okay, or something like that, because they don't actually know that you've heard exactly what they've said. So by calling back the same number, making sure that obviously you've got it, then we make sure that at the same time we're all at the same page in terms of score and fouls. Same with points. If your score sheet person calls out 10, because that's the score they've just recorded, we look up, make sure we've got 10 and call 10 back. And again, our chairperson, if they're sitting right in the middle, means that they can hear that and make sure they're matching. And if it's a really, really loud game, they can help relay the information through as well. And that happens. If it's really close, really loud, you've got lots of parents sitting behind you, sometimes we need help, but at least between the 3 of us, we make sure we're matching. And if it's not matching because you put it on the wrong side, or you put a 2 up when it should have been a 3, or whatever it may be, or you put the fouls on the wrong side, then we're picking it up straight away and we can work out where the error is and fix it. It might be that you've fallen asleep on the clock and forgot to put points up, or we sort of zone in and start watching the game and forget what's going on court. So that's why it's really important that between all of us, we work together and make sure that they match. Timeouts are to be timed by the timekeeper. So timeouts are for a duration of 1 minute. So once the referee has signalled that the timeout has been awarded to whatever team has asked for it, then we start a timer on that. We let the referees know when 50 seconds is up with one horn, and then we let them know again at 1 minute that the minute is up. Once that happens, the referees, it's their job to get the teams in. What we do ask is that we don't use the phone for the timing. If you have to use a phone, there's no other thing, then it's on silent and non-vibrate, and we don't answer it and we don't do anything else with it during the game. We just use it for that purpose. most of the time you'll find that there is a dad or someone in the team that has a watch that has a second hand in it, or a stopwatch. So we try and avoid using phones, of course, because we tend to get distracted during the game watching Facebook or the NRL scores and stuff like that. So we try and avoid that as much as possible. It's also making sure that we're putting the periods up, the timing for in between periods. So 2-minute break between quarters 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 5 minutes for half time. And it always goes from 5 minutes to 0 or 2 minutes to 0. We don't add that time to the period. So if it's an 8-minute 12s and 14s game and it's quarter break, we don't put 10 on the clock and run it down to 8. The teams need to see it come down to 0, and they know that when it gets to 0, they've got to go out on court. So now we're going to go on to the shot clock, or the 24-second clock. So the 24-second clock isn't used in every game. It's for 14s Division 1 and up, so 16s and 18s as well. Like I said earlier, if you aren't requiring a shot clock, then that person can sit there and help with foul bats. Now the shot clock is a 24-second clock, and there is a differing rule for under 14s that I'll go through at the end. But basically, the jump ball is thrown up for the start of the game. Game clock starts when it's touched on the jump ball. The shot clock will always have a delay between the game clock and the shot clock for the very start of the game, because we're waiting for control. We've got no control at the start, we've just got a tap, game clock starts, and then it might be a 3 to 4 second delay until we see clearly one of the teams get control of the ball. Once one of the teams has got control of the ball, we should be changing, or the chairperson should be changing the arrow to point to whoever didn't get control, and you should be saying a shot clock as well. Okay? We run the shot clock, and that team essentially has 24 seconds to take a shot and hit the ring or make it. So we run the shot clock, some basic steps of play to get into play. Play with it before the game starts, because not all shot clocks are identical, but the basic functions are essentially the same. So we just need to work out what the buttons are and the steps are for that shot clock that you're using. So play with it before the game. Player's got the ball from the jump ball. We've started the shot clock. We've changed the arrow to whatever way it should be running. And the players are dribbling up the court, or teams dribbling up the court. Clock's running. We hear a whistle. Your first step should always be the stop. So always press stop and work out why the referee blew their whistle. And we're talking about, when I say stop, we're talking about shot clock now. So the game clock should have stopped anyway, but the shot clock, we're stopping for a whistle. If it's because the player's dribbling down the court and defence has knocked it out of their hands, there's no change or control, it's just been knocked out, the same team gets control of the ball from the sideline for throwing, then it's stopped on whatever it might have been 18, might have been 10, we stopped it. Once it's thrown back in court and touched, we start it again, but we don't reset it. There's been no change. Make sense? Okay. If the whistle is for a jump ball, it might be two players are fighting for it, or it's been stuck in the ring, or whatever it may be, we stop the clock because we've heard the whistle. And if the same team gets control from the arrow, because the arrow is pointing their way, then the shot clock stays at what it was, and it starts again once it's touched on court. If the arrow is pointing the other team, so it's now a turnover, then it's a reset, because every team gets a new 24 seconds each new control. And once it's on court, it starts from 24, and we're going to go the other way now. If, for juniors, if the whistle was for a foul or a foot violation, it's a full reset to 24 seconds. So the referee's come up and said it's a foul on 10 red, it's side ball. Then we have 24 seconds on the shot clock. Even if it's not a turnover, it's same as a defensive foul. Throw it back in, once it's touched, we start it again. Okay? So my simple rule is you should have your finger on the stop button for the entire duration while you're doing the shot clock. Because it's easier, and I've done it many times where I've pressed stop thinking it's going to hit the ring, and it hasn't, and then I can just press start again. So once you press reset, you've gone past that point. You can't take it back, but at least if you just press stop, you've got more options. Okay? So the ball's back on the court, they're dribbling around, we haven't heard a whistle, the team's taken a shot. It has to hit the ring or go in for us to stop it, unless we hear a whistle. So it goes up, hits the ring, we press stop. If it goes in, it's a reset, and once it's thrown back in court by the team that didn't score, it runs again, and they've got 24 seconds up the other end. If it doesn't go in, it hits the ring, it's a reset, but it doesn't start until somebody gets control on the rebound, whether it's defense or offense, whoever gets it, they get a full 24 seconds again. So your simple rules are, hear the whistle, press stop. Hit the ring, press stop. Does that make sense? If they're dribbling down the court and the ball gets knocked out of their hands and they're scrambling for the ball and the ball's rolling around, until you see the other team clearly get two hands on it and get control, it's not a turnover. So although a player doesn't have the ball in their hands and doesn't have control themselves, the team hasn't lost control. So the shot clock keeps on running. So until you hear a whistle or you see the other team get two hands on the ball and they've got it, we just let it go. And if it runs out, it runs out. So if the shot clock does go off, the referees will call it if it's a violation. So if it's going down really low and it's down to 5 seconds, and then all of a sudden they put a shot up, and while the shot's in the air, it goes off, because that happens. If it hits the ring or goes in, it's play on. It's 24 seconds for whoever gets the rebound or whoever's throwing it in. If it doesn't hit the ring and defense get the ball, they're all going the other way. It's just a reset. And if offense get it, they're violated. It's a shot clock violation. The referees will call that though. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. In under 14s, just to change things up a little bit, the Division 1, the shot clock does not start until the players get the ball over halfway. And both feet and the ball have to go over halfway for it to start. Once it's over, it runs just as it would for 16s and 18s, waiting for a whistle, hitting the ring or whatever. It's all the same, it's just the initial start of it is only from halfway. What I would say about all positions is that we're working as a team. So as a chairperson, I may not be able to see a sub coming or a coach asking for a timeout or someone asking a question, but as the shot clock operator on one end, when there's a dead ball situation, so the referees are calling fouls or, the shot clock operator's sitting there doing nothing. They're not having to put points up on the board. They're not, they're just sitting there waiting for the ball to go back in. So as a shot clock operator, I'm always looking to see what's happening around. And I'm saying to the chairperson, sub blue or timeout to blue or whoever it may be. And likewise, all four of us can do that. We can all help each other. If I forget to change the arrow as a chairperson, I expect my people around me to help me, making sure that I've changed the arrow or turned the foul line on if I forget to turn the foul line on. So when my score sheet person says to my timekeeper, that's first person or fourth team, and my timekeeper says fourth team because they've checked that they've got that, and I don't put my foul line on because I've had subs coming in and I've been caught up talking to the referees, whatever, then I expect the people around me to remind me. Okay, so as a team we work together. Our job is to help the game run smoothly, to help the referees if needed, and as a team we do that. Okay, well thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you can always contact Basketball New South Wales, and they should hopefully be able to give you an answer that will assist you.